looking through dozens of retailers and understanding what drives loyalty. Over and over again, it comes back to the interaction with the employee.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Industry Pulse, a casual yet insightful series with Medallia's very own experience experts who have been in the trenches leading EX and CX strategies for some of the world's top organizations. This month, we're talking about customer loyalty. Medallia recently teamed up with Ipsos to survey over 800 CX professionals to get the lowdown on what loyalty really means. And to kick things off, I wanted to start with this juicy stat. 86% of CX professionals agree that customer loyalty is only going to become more important as a business metric in the future. Even more telling, 92% of high-growth companies are planning to ramp up their investments in loyalty this year. So Judy, I'm going to throw it to you first. What's your take on this?
Great. Thanks, Lauren. Well, of course, as a longtime and passionate customer advocate, I love seeing that such a significant percentage of brands are focused on loyalty and will continue to do so in the future. In my world, financial services, the loyalty metric we often refer to is primacy. And that is the number of primary accounts, typically a checking account that the bank has. And there's a few reasons for that. But while primacy is the main way historically financial services brands, banks have looked at loyalty, I think the real magic comes when we pair that sticky product, that primary checking account, with a fantastic experience. And that's what really gets us to that emotional loyalty beyond just, hey, I'm here because it's hard to move my account. So to me, the two components really have to come together. And that's why I love seeing the list of different actions of what loyalty really looks like and how we can move the needle beyond simply sticky products to really a emotional connection, right, with our customers.
I love what Judy said. She talked about primacy and the checking account, and then she talked about delivering experience. Now, both of those things come from employees. Right? Even the checking account, people often think it's just a product, and we're not talking about the employees. Employees built this checking account, the fees associated with it, the rules, who's able to get it, right? All of those things. So I love that this article in several places highlights what CX practitioners think about the role of employees in delivering everything that the customer receives.
Melissa, a really good point about this critical component of the employee's experience driving the customer experience and kind of that relationship. I think that there was 85% of CX practitioners believed that effectively managing the employee experience directly impact customer loyalty. In my neck of the woods in travel and hospitality, that is a huge, huge component because the employees are very, very hands-on in delivering the experience. And yet, the hospitality industry, if you look at all industries that the BLS tracks, it actually has the lowest overall employee tenure. So I think about all of the ways that that can have a negative impact on customer loyalty, and thinking about, if you lose half of your front desk agent staff every year, which isn't really uncommon in the hospitality industry today, this constant cycle impacts training systems, protocols, brand standards, and really delivering on that customer promise. The customer promise should be kind of that building block for creating loyalty. So very, very top of mind. And I thought that was an interesting overall relationship.
Yeah, I agree. On the retail side, we really talk about two types of loyalty. And what I love about this research is it goes into what I broadly call experiential loyalty. Of course, the other one being kind of programmatic, so a rewards program. Obviously, we know that those have their place and they work really well for driving loyalty, specifically around stopping, splitting of wallet, driving frequency. But what I really liked about this is that the practitioners focused on the experience and how that plays into loyalty. And it's not always about price. In my research, looking through dozens of retailers and understanding what drives loyalty, over and over again, it comes back to the interaction with the employee. That's a huge positive. But it's also a challenge because humans aren't robots. We can't be programmed to deliver an experience over and over again with consistency. Sometimes we wake up on the wrong side of the bed. So it's one of those things where we want to celebrate it and reinforce it and let employees know that they are an attribute of loyalty. They're driving loyalty with their customers. I don't know if we always tell them that, and then give them a way to measure that so they can be proud of their jobs and have that intrinsic motivation to continue to drive that loyalty.
It's such a key part of like making sure your teams and your employees aren't wasting energy in the wrong places. We've all been in that check-in experience where we go to the hotel, you got to go to the front desk, you get your key, and then the associate feels like they need to tell you this 5-minute dialogue about different amenities at the resort. Breakfast starts at this time. Here's the fitness center. Here's the pool. They may have been instructed actually, hey, here's the guideline. When somebody checks in, you orient them to what's going on here, and that really will drive the experience. But if you don't have the customer feedback side of that telling you what people actually want to hear, maybe they value efficiency, maybe there's key components that are most important. And feedback and different signal capture can tell you that. It can tell you if more people are selecting mobile check in and why they're selecting mobile check in, why they're passing the front desk. And by passing the front desk, they may be missing out on a great, experience opportunity. That's a real example of a company that we've worked with that uncovered this type of thing by listening to customer experience, letting them evaluate the processes and kind of the application of what they're doing. They had a hypothesis, but that hypothesis ended up not being accurate all the time. And people were wasting oxygen explaining things that actually weren't beneficial to the customer. So really, really great point, Mike.
Jeff, I just got to tell you this story because it's exactly what you just said, where it's something going wrong actually created an amazing experience for me at Westin Hotel. I was just in San Francisco. I got the push notification. My mobile key is ready. My mobile key is never ready, right? I mean, it's never ready before I get there. That's a whole different problem. But so it's ready. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to take advantage of this. 26th floor. I go up there. I go to hold the phone up there, blinking yellow light, right? I'm like, dang it. So I go back down to the desk and I go, blinking yellow light. And he's like, sir, I'm so sorry that happened. Let's get you a couple of keys. We'll resolve this. And he said, oh, you know what? As an elite member, you have access to our club, which is not available in every location. It's open 24 hours to you. There's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I would have never even known that. I ended up using that not only for myself, but for our team to prep for our meetings. We had a nice place to do that. And it totally turned the experience around. Why? Because something went wrong. I engaged with the number one attribute that drives loyalty, and that was that employee, and then a knowledgeable, informed, empowered employee. And it totally turned the 2 days around.
It's such a really key point because you think about the steps in the journey in travel and hospitality in so many industries. And by creating a process, are you missing out on something else that was valuable? So one of the companies, it's a large gaming company we work with, they actually were trying to delineate, okay, what are the things that we want people to be talking to humans about? Like what points in the customer journey do we get more value from that human to human interaction where it can create a exceptional experience or even upsell or cross sell? And then which are just transactional components that are kind of just factored in cost and they kind of tie employees up from things that they could be doing more high value activities that would be kind of more in that column A that I mentioned.
Hey, Jeff, that's where I was going to go. I was going to build on this idea that feedback is amazing, of course, and for all the different reasons and stories you guys have shared. But I think it's important to make sure that we are reminding other CX leaders, in the EX leaders, to have a wider definition of what feedback is, that it does need to include behaviors, that it does need to include connectivity to operational results. Mike, that hotel you were visiting could have certainly been monitoring your behaviors online and known if you had engaged with that app, did you indeed complete all the required steps to set up your mobile key? Or was there a problem on their end, right, that resulted in that not being ready for you? And then they had geolocation on, they knew when you were on site to be able to send you a notification about maybe there's been a hiccup along the way. Please stop at the front desk before you went all the way up and all the way back down. So in the report, I love the reference to feedback too. I just think it's an important reminder that feedback has to be more than just solicited survey feedback. We have to listen where our customers are talking, whether they're talking to us directly or about us, or whether they're demonstrating it through their behaviors and the operational results.
There's a direct correlation, I think, between this idea of loyalty and actively seeking feedback. In fact, I'm thinking of another Medallia study that it was looking at what are the attributes of what keeps customers loyal. And I think 44% of customers said they would remain loyal to a brand, that just sought feedback from them and provided that form of communication and that outlet. So I thought that was just a really, really interesting idea. And those conversations, seeking feedback, listening, and just the act of doing it can contribute directly to overall customer loyalty.
What I found interesting about that fact, and I think it was 44%, is that we know from being in this business that, I don't know, something like 5 or less percent of the population gives feedback. The 44% that didn't go unnoticed. They notice that you're seeking the feedback and they cite that that drives loyalty. So that's one of the reasons that, for example, multiple different channels, but on digital, we'll say, hey, have an always on feedback tab on your website. The response rates are horrible. They're less than 0.5%, but that website visitor notices that. They know that you're open for the feedback, and that means something to them. And, this research actually fortified that it does mean something to them.